Hello everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel. Welcome back to my channel. I am super excited today to share 5 different ways to make your Christmas or holiday cards really extra special. All of the products that I'm using today are from the Waffle Flower July 2020 release. I'll have more information all about that down in the description box below. So to get started, I wanted to share 5 different ways that I think are really extra special to make your holiday cards shine. And the first one is using different types of specialty cardstock or pattern paper. So first up, I'm going to use the oversized piece word die, and I die cut it out of gold foil cardstock. This is a really easy and affordable way to make your Christmas cards shine. And this is a very simple card to create, and so that could be mass produced. Another way to make your cards shine is to use glitter cardstock. Now, I like to find glitter cardstock where the glitter doesn't rub off, especially when I'm going to be giving the cards to somebody. This one worked, and I love the hexagon glitter cardstock background behind the poinsettias. It's just enough glitter to make a nice touch. The other thing you can do is use pattern paper. Now, I decided I wanted a slimline card for this one, and so the great thing about Waffle Flower pattern paper is that it is 8.5 by 5.5, and some of the patterns, like in JJ's Rainbows pad, the pattern is continuous. So the half pads have 2 different 4.25 by 5.5 inch pieces in them, but the JJ's Rainbows has a continuous rainbow pattern. And so I was able to cut out a slimline card and use that as the backdrop for this fun Merry and Bright card. Okay, these are the half lines pads that I was talking about. So you can see the paper is still 8.5 by 5.5, but the design is cut in the center. The great thing about that is it's perfect for layering. So I'm going to cut 2 pieces down to 4 A2 panels, and then I'm going to pick 2 of them, and I'm going to trim one down just a little bit more down to 4 by 5.25 so that I can layer them on top of each other. And those layered pattern papers make great backgrounds for Christmas cards. The next technique is to use foiling. So for this technique, I am going to use Thermoweb's iCraft Deco Foil Foam Adhesive. This foam adhesive is double-sided adhesive foam, and I am going to create a shiny red nose for my Be a Reindeer die, which I've cut out of 3 colors of cardstock above. I just need the nose, so I'm just going to put a small piece of the foam and some Thermoweb purple tape to hold it in place on the die. Then I am going to cut out some of the foam out of stars, and I'm using the Waffle Flowers Nesting Stars die there, just 2 of the small ones, and I'm going to send this through my Gemini Junior. Okay, so I've cut out the nose, so I'm going to set that aside for when we are ready to put our reindeer together there, and I'm going to cut out a few more of the small size stars. Now I'm going to use some Memory Runner XL to adhere my red pattern paper down to my green pattern paper. That is my favorite tape runner, and I will list it in the description below. And once that's done, I have my background done. I'm going to put the craft version of the Be a Reindeer down on the pattern paper. I'm not going to adhere those little arms because I want them to be able to be pushed up so that he can be holding something. So I'm going to adhere this down. Now you can see that I also cut it out of brown cardstock. So I'm going to use the brown one, and I'm going to snip off the antlers. This way I can layer up this reindeer to be a multicolored die cut. So basically we're paper piecing, but just really easy because you don't have to do very much cutting. So I'm going to use some Thermoweb's Ultra Bond, which is a really strong liquid adhesive, and I'm going to glue the antlers on top of the craft antlers. And I actually really like the way this looks because I feel like the antlers get a little bit of extra dimension as well. If you don't like that, you could cut off the craft antlers and just put the brown ones in place, but I really like that little bit of extra dimension. Now I'm going to put some of the Ultra Bond right in the spots where the eyes are, because right now he's got red eyes and it's a little creepy. So I'm going to use the brown cardstock that we cut to use those little die cut eyes and just put them right inside the craft opening there. So just really easy, just pick up that little eye dot. I did not lose them. I was super excited about that, and just place them inside. This one I just had a little bit of trouble getting it into the spot where it needed to be, so I just used the tips of my scissors to rotate it around and make sure it was where it was supposed to be. Okay, now I'm going to snip off these little parts of the ears, because if you look at pictures of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, he's got actually little white spots on him, and especially inside his ears. So I'm going to trim off both of those from the white cardstock die cut, and then I'm going to use some of that liquid adhesive again to adhere them down. Next up, I'm going to take that little foam nose that we cut. And remember, it's double-sided adhesive. So I'm going to peel off the back protective layer, and then I'm going to place it right in the die cut area of the nose in the craft reindeer there. So I'm just going to be really careful that I don't put it where I don't want it, because that is very sticky adhesive. So you got to really be careful. Next, I'm going to take a piece of Decofoil transfer sheets in red. I just need a tiny little corner, so I'm just going to pull out the corner of the foil there and snip a small piece off so that I don't even have to take it out. Now I'm going to remove the top protective layer of that double-sided adhesive foam, and then I'm going to put the foil down with the color side facing up, facing me. I'm going to rub it with my fingertip, not with my nail, and then peel it off. And now Rudolph has a shiny red nose, which makes me so incredibly happy. I'm going to do the large star by peeling off the top protective layer first, not the back, because I want to place this inside his hands. So once I foil the top of the star, I am going to remove the back protective layer and then tuck it inside the little reindeer's paws. And that's what's great about having them die cut, is that you can put a little gift in there, or you could put a candy cane in there. I'm going to go with stars since the rest of the card is going to have stars on it. For the small ones, I'm going to peel off the back first, lay them down on the card, and then peel off the top there. It just makes it easier to foil, I think, if it's already on the card. But for that larger one, I did want to tuck it inside his hands. Now I'm just going to do the same exact thing, where I'm going to take the foil, I'm going to press it down on the star. Be sure not to press down a clear spot that you've already used, because it will stick like crazy to the adhesive. So make sure you're using an actual piece of the colorful foil when you're adhering it to that foam adhesive. And that's a really simple way to add some foiling to the nose and to these stars, and to really make your Christmas cards shine. Okay, the next technique is to use heat embossing, and there's a bunch of different ways to use heat embossing. So the first one is to add a really cute sentiment to this card. So I'm going to use some anti-static powder tool and my Versamark ink, and I'm going to ink up one of the sentiments from the classic holiday sentiment stamp set, and it's one that fits right in between his little antlers, which made me so unbelievably happy as well. So I am going to white heat emboss this. I think for Christmas, white embossing powder on colorful cardstock just looks beautiful. I am using a dry paintbrush because I did get some little bits of white in places that I didn't want it. I wanted to make sure those antlers stay brown, the background stays bright red, and I didn't want little crumbs of white adhesive everywhere. I'm going to heat set that, and just look, it just pops on the background. I think it looks absolutely incredible with the pattern paper as well. Okay, another way to use heat embossing is to create a pattern background with it. So for this one, I'm using the anti-static powder tool on an entire 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of white cardstock. I have 3 small stamps. These are from an older set called Deck the Halls, and I am stamping them with Versamark ink. I'm just using a acrylic block for this technique because you can't really tell where you're stamping. So I stamped a couple of times, and now I'm pouring silver heat embossing powder on top. And now I'm going to heat set that, because now I can figure out where I need to add in some more smaller stamps. So I'm just going to keep doing that until the entire background is nice and filled with a bunch of beautiful silver snowflakes. And again, just a couple of little spots there that still seemed kind of like too much white space. And so I'll just add those in as well. And this embossing powder, this is actually a Gina K embossing powder. It's silver fine detail, and I absolutely love it. Just look at the little details on some of those snowflakes that really, you can tell, just absolutely look beautiful. And that's how this card ended up turning out. One more way to use embossing powder is to first stamp it with a light ink on craft cardstock, and we're going to do some no line coloring here, but I'm going to keep that stamp in the MISTI exactly where it is because I'm going to put this back in and then heat emboss over it. Okay, so I am using some Polychromos Faber-Castell pencils, and basically what I do is I outline the entire image, each piece in the darkest color that I'm going to use. Then I go in with white. I actually use a Prismacolor white pencil because they are creamier to me. And then I go in with my medium color. Then I go in with my lightest color. I go back in with some more white, and then sometimes I do it again, darker, medium, light, and then some white to accent it. And so if you want to see more about how I do pencil coloring, just let me know in the comments below, and I'll do another video where I'll go a lot more slowly. Okay, so once this is done, I am going to put it back in the MISTI. I'm going to put some anti-static over the whole thing because I was touching it. There's fingerprints everywhere. I'm going to use some Versamark ink on that stamp this time, and I'm going to close the door. It's in the same spot that it was because we kept it in there. So now I can stamp it with some Versamark ink and then pour gold embossing powder on top. And I love this effect. It really helps hide any inconsistencies in your coloring as well, because if you lose any of the lines by doing your no line coloring, they are brought back with this gold embossing powder. So it's a technique that I absolutely love, and I really think for poinsettias, it's just absolutely beautiful. Look at all that sparkle and shine that you get on this card. It makes it extra special. Okay, another thing that I like to use to make my Christmas cards a little special is to use non-traditional colors. So this Happy Gnome set is kind of perfect for this technique because you have so many of these little different gnomes. I am going to stamp them in Gina K Designs Amalgam ink. This is the obsidian color, and each of the gnomes is going to be a different color of the rainbow. So having different shapes, different gnomes through 6 different gnomes gives me the opportunity to color them 6 different colors of the rainbow. So I'm going to use a skin tone for their face, but for everything else on them, including their hair, I am going to use variations of one color. So this gnome is going to be all different colors of pink. Now, these are tiny little characters, so you don't have to do a lot of blending or craziness. You can use any markers you have, honestly. Just be able to have some lighter ones and darker ones, different shades of each color. And then, of course, putting that on the slimline card of that background that we die cut from the pattern paper, I think just makes this extra special. It's just a little different from the regular red and green or silver and gold for the holidays, and it's a lot of fun. Okay, the last technique is to add some dimension. I think that holiday cards can get extra special when they have dimension. So for this one, I am actually going to cut a piece of fun foam just slightly smaller than the panel that I created. You can use tape runner on fun foam, but it's easier if you adhere the tape runner to the cardstock and then adhere the foam to that, and then put more tape runner on the craft cardstock and then adhere your foam down to that. So basically the foam does catch against the tape runner, but it's easier to apply on the cardstock. Okay, another way to add dimension is to stack your die cuts. I'm sure you've done this. This is just a really easy way to do it. So I am using Thermoweb's Easy Cut adhesive. It is a thin layer of double-sided adhesive. So I peel off the top protective layer and I'm going to lay down my white cardstock there. Then I'm going to put that top protective layer back and I'm going to trim off the excess because I can use that for small die cuts or another small word. So once that's done, I am going to put the piece word die onto the cardstock, not onto that protective backing of the adhesive on the back, I'm going to put it straight down onto the white cardstock. That is going to basically create a white cardstock sticker. So I can layer these on top of each other very easily. Basically, what I like to do is start at one end, do one letter, straighten it up, do the next letter and so on until it's nice and straight. And it takes just a matter of minutes to do this. I love this adhesive, but I did not cut the gold foil with the iCraft behind it. So I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue to adhere this one. It's another easy way to do it. The great thing about the liquid glue is you have some time to move it around. The great thing about the iCraft is you don't have to worry about dry time. So there's benefits to both. Whichever one you have is fine. And I love all the dimension that you get just by layering it on white cardstock, which we all have a ton of. So now I get to peel off the back protective layer of this whole word die cut there. That's the great thing about using the iCraft, is now I just peel and stick. So I've basically created myself a gold dimensional piece word that I can put right on my card. It makes it really, really simple. And I love all that shine and dimension from the card panel and then dimension from the word die as well. Of course, you can always use a piece of foam tape to pop up the sub-sentiment love, joy, and that's just a third way to add some dimension to your card. So that's just 5 different ways to make your Christmas or holiday cards extra special. If you're interested in the supplies that I used today, they will be linked down below. I will have more information about the Waffle Flower July 2020 release and blog hop in the description box as well. I want to thank you so much for stopping by today. Have a wonderful day.